Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see from the title of today's video, we're gonna kind of go over macros 101. So we're gonna answer some questions like what is a macro and what is the macro diet? Why do I count macros? How do we count macros? We're gonna touch on calories and how that plays into macros, as well as touch on some other useful tools that can help define success when you are tracking macros. So let's go ahead and get started on the first question of what is a macro? So a macro is simply short for macronutrient, and those are the three main things that we get from food, and those are protein, fat, and carbs. So when we say we track macros, those are the three main things that we are tracking when we are on the macros diet. Those three things are the three main ways that our body gets energy from food: protein, fat, and carbs. So I want to touch on why we track macros. So first I'm going to touch on why I personally track macros, and then I'm going to talk about some other possibilities why other people might track macros. So I am personally tracking macros for fat loss, and that has been my goal off and on for the last 4 years. What I love so much about the macros diet and the idea of tracking macros is the fact that it is extremely flexible. There are no off-limit foods, and there are no food groups that I completely restrict. I eat dessert every single day. There are no foods that make me feel guilty. It's complete food freedom, and that's what I have wanted for so long. And I think it's safe to say that that's why a lot of other people track macros, because you are allowed any food that you want. That being said, though, there is some controversy when it comes to the macros diet, because sure, a person could fulfill their whole carbs and fat goals with cookies and ice cream and soda and chips throughout the whole day, but that really boils down to each individual person and the choices that you as an individual want to make when tracking macros. So my approach to that is that for 80% of my protein, fat, and carb goal for the day, I try to fulfill that with whole food options. Then the other 20%, I'll throw in my dessert for the day, or if I want a can of soda that day, whatever it might be, I have that freedom and the flexibility to do so. So that's just my personal take on how I like to split up my macros. So the other reason that I like the whole macros diet is the knowledge of the food that you gain. So before tracking macros, I had no clue why protein was so important. I had no clue how carbs affect our body or how fat affects our hormones. So really, tracking macros has provided me with a ton of education that I would have otherwise not had. I'm a big proponent of knowing the why behind everything that I do. And when I first started tracking macros, I heard protein is so important. You need to make sure you're eating enough protein. My question to that was why? Why is protein so important? Why do I need to make sure I'm eating enough protein? So I was able to kind of delve into that a little bit more and figure that out for myself. So those are the reasons that I track macros and what I love about the macros diet. I want to touch on why other people might be tracking macros. So some other people might have goals to gain weight and gain muscle composition. And some other people might have the goal to just simply maintain their current weight. And those goals can be met with the macros diet or with tracking macros. So whatever your goals might be, there is space for you in counting macros. The next question I want to kind of touch on is how do we track macros? So the two most common ways that people are going to track their macros is using some sort of app and using a food scale. So the most common app that most people use, and what I personally use, is MyFitnessPal. It is super widely known, and it does a great job of keeping a quote-unquote food journal. So it's just tracking how much of everything you've eaten throughout the day. At the end of the day, you can get your totals. So along with using MyFitnessPal to plug in what you're eating, we also need a food scale so we know how much of everything that we're eating. So those are super, super inexpensive on Amazon, and you just simply weigh everything that you eat and log it in your app. So I want to touch on how calories coincide with macros because they sort of fit together. So I'm going to get into a little bit of math real quick, but it's nothing crazy. This is not rocket science. This is just simply how calories are basically macros. So for every 1 gram of carb and protein that we eat, that equals 4 calories. And for every 1 gram of fat we eat, that equals 9 calories. So if we have a chicken breast that has 30 grams of protein, if we do 30 grams of protein times 4 calories, we end up with 120 calories total in that chicken breast. So there you can see that macros pretty much are calories. Macros just sort of breaks down where those calories come from. A couple of other useful tools that can determine success when tracking macros is a body weight scale and a body measuring ribbon. So a body weight scale is a scale that we would step on every morning to plug in some data. So we would just simply figure out how much we weigh every morning. And that data just helps us figure out if we are being successful with tracking macros. A body measuring ribbon can also help us determine success when tracking macros. So whether our goals are to gain weight, maintain our weight, or to lose weight, a body measuring ribbon can help us figure that out. So for me personally, I take measurements of my chest, my hips, and my waist, and I am tracking macros for fat loss. So we would want those measurements over time to trend down. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of me just sort of scratching the surface of what macros is and kind of touching on what the macros diet is too. So if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below with any questions that you might have. Be sure to subscribe if you have not already and ring the bell so you never miss one of my new videos. And I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye!